What is going on, guys? Automatic here with another coach interview for the UBL playoffs for the D-League, of course. And this time I am joined by Skyrander.
What's up, guys?
Alright, so same approach as for the others, which we're gonna start off a bit more casual here, and then as the time progresses, we're gonna get into more league stuff, more serious stuff and whatnot, and of course the playoffs, which we are currently in. Also some notes, I think we have never really spoken before too much, so if there's some things we have to
that's
work
true.
out. Yeah, I mean a few times, but not like extensively as I did with I mean, I didn't know you before this playoff, so that's just something to keep in mind here for the viewers, like if we trying to figure stuff out or whatnot. So, in general...
Well, like a small chat. That's fine in all cases. But yeah, I haven't really had a reason to kind of reach out, I guess. Things have been working out quite fine, so I never really had to, ask too many things, I guess.
Yeah. So, to start things off, also for the viewers that don't know you too well, how did you get into the game in general, like the casual side of Pokemon?
Oh, actually, it started kind of weird. Things was I was just done with my studies as I was studying to be a wine chemist at the part that I just needed to elapse my time to something else, so I started playing X and Y, and realized that a lot of people were playing that on YouTube, and I really enjoyed watching people play that, as I realized that, I can probably do this myself. And it just became kind of a hobby, just a way to really just relax for a while. I really like battle, but also like to discuss how and why I battled the way I did. And it just became a thing. Like, if I was stressed out, I really just enjoyed Wi-Fi battling. I really enjoyed recording also. And it's like, wait, I think I've been doing this for 6 years now, roughly.
Yeah, because also, by the way, before we start, I think you have like probably the best job ever. Like, this is not gonna lie, but I've been noticing that like your first YouTube video is actually from 12 years ago. It wasn't Pokemon, but like your first one ever.
Oh yeah, that was I was really into Star Ocean, I believe, and then I really liked the Tales Stuff series, the Japanese RPGs. So I just shared that. I thought it was fun. I really just, as a young man, I guess you try to tell myself that I was. I really just wanted to see what people thought. And I thought it was a fun thing, though I never really clearly made any money off it. And I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't have the right equipment either.
Yeah, and then of course the 5 to 6 years later, which is before this, what you said, the Pokemon stuff, like the X and Y Wi-Fi battles, which is like the old camera recorder pointing at you at your DS, we used to do the previous days. Was there a period in time in between you played casually and competitively, whether it being like, it doesn't have to be competitively as in Draft League, but just in general, Wi-Fi battle, Smogon, was like a period between that, or just pretty much straightforward into competitive for you?
I was absolutely casual first, and then started to watch streamers that played by Smogon format, and I had no idea what that meant. I even had a big fight with 6 Feet Hag Leo. Thought he was a complete asshole using legendaries when he used Cure Black. In an OU match, I had no idea what that was. But he actually, he's probably not aware of it, but he introduced me to Smogon format, and eventually I started to build an audience with playing NU, because I really, really was obsessed with using lesser used Pokemon. Like Tropius was one of my absolute favorite Pokemon. It was clearly no way we're going to use that well.
Definitely not.
And it just worked. I had a really good friend in Australia which knew a guy that's called Pimp Knight. And for all the right reasons, I actually got to know him. And I know he isn't a big competitive player, but he was very, very open-minded and taught me a lot of things. It was really interesting how he viewed Wi-Fi battles and why he wasn't competitive yet tried to reach out to players that wanted a competitive edge.
I mean, he's still maybe not the most competitive one, but definitely nowadays a very well-known name in the community.
Absolutely.
And also looking at that, because you've been, as far as I'm aware, I went through all people's channels. They have different channels or deleted videos, but so far you are the longest active out of all the coaches we had this season, and also the one with the biggest channel sub-wise. So can you kind of explain, because most of the channels in here were new, like were 1 or 2 years old, like just as myself, I think this is my 3rd year or whatnot. So how did that journey like go for you? Also being close to 2K subs at this point.
Actually, I'll be honest and say that the channel was a lot more healthier before I got, my daughter. Clearly I had to stop making videos, and that definitely affected the channel quite a bit, actually. Not gonna lie, like that part was tough to kind of go back.
You have to make priorities.
Yeah, precisely. And I wouldn't say my channel is dead, but it absolutely lost steam. I'm still doing it because I enjoy it, but of course that feeling is still there, that my short break for 2 months absolutely affected how many watch my games nowadays. Though this league actually helped with that, I'll definitely say that. Definitely introduced people I don't believe necessarily invite or visit my channel are definitely doing that now to see the competitive essence from the other person's battles, which I definitely enjoy. But I think actually, since I host my own league myself, I kind of secluded myself and stuck with the people I knew and kept playing Pokemon, but didn't broaden my horizon once I started battling again.
Yeah, for sure. Like I can definitely relate with that, as I had to drop YouTube for like half a year because of internship, and it just is like I'm still having effects from that. I think at this point I'm barely getting back. So I can definitely feel you on that point. But it's actually good to see that the UBL helped you to get back into that, get some more and maybe even new people going to watch. Because was it one of your main reasons to try and get into the D League, or like what was the thing that made you say, okay, I'm going through this effort of making an application video and try to get in?
It was basically that, well, first and foremost, CJ, which was the previous season's winner, good friend to him, and trying to always helping out, even though he's definitely one of the better battlers I know, but always good to try to inspire him for things that I think could be useful. And he said they're looking for battlers, so why not try yourself to get in? And since I feel I've avoided the community when it comes to Wi-Fi battles in general, I really just wanted to try to see if I really hold up as well as I think I am, or if I'm out of line.
Because
it
was
sounds
this your
weird,
first
but
Wi-Fi league?
No, this is my second one. I should be third, but I did drop from the GBA D League.
Okay.
I had one battle and then I dropped because, well, I'd say internal conflicts. And I just, it was better me leaving at that point.
Yeah, and for the other, like your complete story about leagues, like how many have you been so far, like excluding this D League?
Let's see, I've been in, well, the TBU, which of course was my first Wi-Fi league, which unfortunately is no more. And then I was in the LBA, UBL, and the MPA, and of course that short period in GBA. So I think that's four or five leagues, something like that.
Yes, and so for the results in, like, what's the did you win a championship in one of those?
Only actually in VPL, and it took me 5 seasons.
Okay, so if you're at one, just as me, but if you look back to that championship, I've discussed this with other people as well. Like nowadays, the term championship, and I'm not sure if you agree with this or not, but the term championship is kind of vague, as the amount of leagues, and with all due respect, the less competitive leagues make, in my eyes, sometimes certain championship titles more rewarding than others. And
I'll say so, yeah. I'll agree. I actually been on, or I had a discussion before, where I don't believe the championship itself really means anything as much as you make a playoff. For me, it's about how stable you are as a battler.
Yeah, how consistent you can be in. Yeah.
So winning it all, really, it could be. I mean, look upon my, I guess you'd say, versus Vepsis or versus Jet, where 2 battles were actually lost. Where I think the form and the matchup can be so heavily dependent that it might not actually. It could just be the matchup itself that is the end result, that you simply can't do nothing about it. If the person's playing safe, throughout the game, they're still gonna win.
Yeah, because that's also one of the fun things. Like, in round one, you're facing one coach, which you lost. You only lost 2 games. You lost one against Vepsis and then one against the Kamalas now, and
Yeah.
there might be a chance that those are the two teams you're gonna face in playoffs if you win round one. How does that make you feel in that sense? That this could be the case. Of course, you can still face Ashmore. It can still be a thing, but considering how that's also an interesting matchup. It's like, let's just say that Ashmore wasn't really in the right place when you battled him the first time.
Well, yeah, precisely. I'll definitely think that myself. I'll probably not to scorch Vepsis off because I really just want to kind of showcase I can beat him, but I really want Ash to have an honest chance. Like, if the battles itself didn't matter, if that was our last week battles, and of course it was a really tight playoff match, but if the game itself didn't matter, I'll probably like redo that game without that crit from the beginning, or I mean that first play.
Mm-hmm.
Just to get the right feel for him. He's a really, really good competitive battler, so I think he showcased that through and through, that he has a really good mindset about the games, but sometimes that just doesn't pay off, and this was clearly one of those games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because also speaking of the competitiveness which you're pointing out right now, if you happen to win this season of the UBL D-League, would you consider that more valuable to yourself than your other championship right now, or not?
Oh yeah, why? Because I did it, but I probably don't. I wouldn't brag about it. Not in that essence, at least. Of course, since the format is new to me, it's more interesting that I won a league with a different format. I'll probably reward that aspect more, since I have to rethink the matchups itself.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
But other than that, I really, really just, for me, championship just isn't worth that much in reality. I really just want to have a good result overall. It might sound weird, but I really just, I don't like being too cocky about things. I mean, I know everyone I've met so far can be really, really good, so I could possibly say that.
Yeah, so far you're 7-2 record plus 22 differential at like, I mean, second place after Vepsis, who just won against everyone. So I'm not sure how fair it was to compare it in this sense, but I definitely think in that sense, regardless of playoffs, that your season has already been very good so far.
Yeah, and I got to showcase what hyper-offensive means in a draft format. I think it's like, I believe that, or hyper-offensive is more, I guess, viewed as a better playstyle today than it was when I started, but in general, it's viewed to be, well, the noob playstyle. Like, that's how you play through the game itself.
Yeah, it's to me, hyper offensive, one of those playstyles where I used it myself once in an off season just to experience it, and to me it came over as like really, like, you can really rush prep with hyper offense, but if you are that hyper offense player, which I've also met before, which he is just good at the game, and he is really good at hyper offense. Man, you're in for a game if you're against someone like that. Like, that's not gonna be fun. Like, people call stall not being fun, but if someone keeps hitting you left and right, that's not fun either.
Yeah, I mean, in general, like, I don't believe that playstyle isn't too good for Wi-Fi leagues because, well, it's often shorter games, but if their opponent knows what they're doing, it can be a real decent trade-off. Like versus, for example, Blaze and Squid, which probably was one of my longer games, I think we showcased more that even if the team was hyper-offensive, it still had bulky aspects to it to make it survive the strategy I was trying to replicate on. And Blaze, of course, was naturally a bulkier player, so it worked kind of well.
In a certain extent, at least from what I hear, most players that play competitively and are good at this game say, at least in Generation 7, that bulky offense is probably the most ideal playstyle to master at this point.
I'll say, definitely. Since I would probably say because of the speed tier itself doesn't matter that much anymore, and probably less in League besides winning or having like a steadfast Pokemon that always is the fastest. But besides that, you just really want to come in and out as often as possible without losing too much momentum. Hence, bulky offensive is just that much better as a playstyle.
Yeah, it's really, really hard to play around that. But to go into a little bit more depth about the playoffs right now, like you're facing Ash, Or actually, you're not facing. You're facing the Kamala's. My bad. Yeah, you face Jet. Which one, of course, one of the matches you lost. Just looking matchup wise, was this the match you prefer to happen, or were you hoping that you were gonna play like Ash, Squid, or Malad at that point?
If I'm being honest here, I really want to face Blaze again, and it's not because I don't cherish Jet's success. It's great, and somewhere down the line, I really enjoy battling him too because I actually won the game without hacks. That would have been incredible to not have a game determined turn one. But the reason I'm probably going to face Blaze again is because I actually have had another strategy for him, which I really heavily considered. Mostly because how he was doing for the beginning of the season. I felt that he was probably one of the players I'm going to be facing again. And I guess Irish was right. Eventually he's going to choke, and eventually it happened.
Eventually it happened, yeah. Because looking at the teams in your set so far, like I've seen a lot of great sets from you, but which one do you think is was in your opinion, your most fun or your best set you've run this week? Because I can definitely think of a few.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have the first come to mind is probably the one that just because of the amount of salt it produced, but absolutely the double dance Salazzle.
Yeah, for me that was the first one that came to mind for me as well.
But the thing is here, I really I enjoyed the idea, but I wanted it to work differently than it turned out. It was never supposed to get both set up going.
Yeah, but
one or the other.
That's how the format works, and I'm not sure how you experience this yourself. As you have a decent experience in this. You also do not plan for a 6-0. Like, they just happened when they do. You prep your game, you do it, and sometimes it just plays out that it ends up working like that, which was also with Salazzle. Like, even though it was not supposed to sweep, it sometimes just happens that the occasion is there where you can just get it in and just go.
Yeah, and then it's up to the opponent to kind of just check that. And for my experience here, the situation I was in that particular situation, I felt Manaphy was the right switch in to get in. Hence I went for Nasty Plot, since he was probably going to check that against the Fire Blast. And, well, it stayed in another turn, and I was like, okay, that's wrap.
That's a passive turn, let's take that.
And I actually don't know really how they happen. Like, for me, I never intend to sweep. I intend to wall break early, but I think the only is against Arkansas Absol Throw. No, Razor Winds. It's the only player that actually where Thunderous did wall breaking, which wasn't my intentions, instead of actually sweeping.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably the only thing, only battle that had actually happened. The rest of the season has been sweeps from that point on. I got the opportunity. My opponent had no way of checking it, which I'm quite unaccustomed to that. Like, I usually face teams that can push those sets back. And
because that was something that kind of, it was curious to me, and I think also Irish mentioned this in the power rankings a few times, but the amount of opponents you face which didn't probably prep for Thunderous, that was actually shocking to me.
Yeah, well, actually I agree, and I don't want to be disrespectful to my opponents, but there are situations here where I, of course, question those situations, because Thunderous, of course, being one of those Pokemon that are just infamous for actually getting Nasty Plot up. If you get that opportunity, you need some way of checking that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, for sure, it can happen that you have no answer for +2 Thunderous. Like, defensive-wise, I can totally get that, because that thing has 125 special attack, it gets +2, it gets an amazing move pool. I get you cannot switch into that, but there were also a lot of people that had no way of revenging it afterwards, which is kind of stunning to me.
Yeah, no Scarper is nothing like that. Even, this is probably, I should probably say this too, this is probably one of the first time I experienced a season where there really weren't that many priority uses either. Like, no really good amount of Ice Sharders that were actually used. Sneasel and Meanwhile went undrafted. Mm-hmm. For example, they're incredibly effective versus those kind of teams that actually set up because of when Flaila Ice Stabs produce itself.
I mean, one of the best priority uses is at your team at this point in Conkeldurr.
Oh yeah.
So that's because that's also a fun story. Like, you were never anticipating on drafting Conkeldurr. It's just like you forgot to take it out or whatever, and it was there on your team. But It ended up being your kill leader after all.
Yeah, I mean, in the end here, I just tried to force feed its kills, but it definitely had two really good games where Trick Room just made sense. But as I said, I never had any intentions of actually keeping it. I actually was going to draft Hitmonchan as a low fighting type with Rapid Spin. And it actually got available week 2, but at that point I was like, I still need Trunkelder, and
it does work.
Halfway through I just gave up on it.
Yeah, because speaking of Trick Room, I definitely think that we talked about your best sets earlier. Like the Trick Room shenanigans in week 3 versus Squid is definitely one I enjoyed the most watching.
Yeah, I didn't expect it to work as well as it did. It just, I'll be honest and say, my prep was basically, I went through this with Irish that I had no idea what I was supposed to do. The matchup is just so good for Blaze. Like, I could definitely see the Dragon Dance set with Charizard just sweeping through me. I had Havenberry on Zygarde to at least try to revenge kill it somehow if things went down. But I never had to take that stand. He didn't have a filler on Charizard to be able to hit Diancie. I was like, this is not happening.
Yeah, it was definitely fun to watch. But to move on to the play, how do you look at your match versus Jetman? Are you like how do you look at the matchup in general? Now you have faced him and also lost to him.
Well, I didn't get to showcase anything, or at least so I believe. But I had two teams that I intended to bring, and since it wasn't affecting my playoff, I brought a more defensive team versus him this time in my first game to try to see what he was planning for offensively check me, and well, things didn't go that well.
I mean, for him at that point it was a must-win. For you it really wasn't, which can explain your the reason why you prepped like you did. But do you feel that gives you a advantage in the playoff match right now? That the fact that he had to go all out?
I really hope so. I really just wished I got more out of it.
Yeah.
Like, after the game I was trying to just bait some sets for him, like, could you have done this or that? But eventually, he probably gonna redesign his team anyway. But the way I look at it, his team looked close to what I was expecting, which was very, very bulky, but with offensive aspects. And I still need to check that. Luckily for me, I don't believe Celesteela, which is a great Pokemon draft format, is a particularly big threat versus my team. Granted, I have the right offensive Pokemon around to check it properly.
I mean, your two offensive threats here in Thundurus and Zygarde are really, really scaring that thing out, which is definitely great, because, like, again, Celesteela is a top 5 mon in the format, without a doubt.
Absolutely. Hands down. So, my initial thought is basically, like, this coming up, as you said, later, my initial thought is basically to bait Celesteela in this time around. I didn't get that chance.
Yeah.
Like, if that Celesteela comes in, that means it's a passive play, and hopefully I can build something upon that. My initial thought here is to actually have a Pokemon that can pivot through that and bait that in, so I think you believe which Pokemon is going to make it this time around. Gonna force the Diancie out also. But other than that, like, I'm gonna have the same idea what I wanted to create, but with different Pokemons.
Okay. So how do you feel your chances are, like, percentage-wise? Do you think, like, this is going to be a 50-50 coin flip, or in favor of you, in favor of his?
I'll say if he goes for any passive play, he loses. That's simple as that. If he just, like he did this time, get offensive momentum and keeps that, I mean, I'm going to have a really tough time. Because I'm not going to prep for being defensive here. There is really no reason for it. But I can't make up like rooms for him. A crit knockoff should not determine the game.
For sure.
Tangrowth is prepared for something like that this time around.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely get that. And if you happen to win this game, would you prefer to face Websis or Ashmore in the championship match?
That's the thing. I really cherish both. I'll be on go straight forward and say that. But if anything has to be said here, it is that, of course, I want to defeat the mountain, the un-Scandinavian man. I mean, somewhere down the line, I guess you'd say it like this. Yeah, I do really want to rebel Ash. That's not going to go away. But, of course, also want to defeat Vepsis. If anything, versus him, I had a questionable matchup, and I still believe the first team I probably was scripting on was probably the better team there, and I actually gonna get hopes on the chance of proving that. And if I'm wrong this time versus Vepsis, well, then he's your guy. That's basically it, and he deserves to win it all.
Yeah, just like go all out or go home, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
All right. To wrap things up before about to do that, there's one more thing which I'm going to ask every single coach. I'm really curious about their answers on this. I'm going to offer you a deal, and for the sake of the question, at first I'm going to assume you're going to accept this deal. We can talk afterwards if you would if this was real or not, because of course it's completely fictional. If I would offer you that from now on, you would be first in every draft you join. So you get first pick every time, no matter which league, every single one, you get first pick. But right now, you have to call a Pokemon which you would draft every single time in round 1. What would that Pokemon be? Like, assuming it's allowed, like no Primal Groudon or anything like that.
Oh, you mean like every Lily and stuff like that too?
Yeah, just like in draft league, like what would be your round 1 pick every single time if you had to call this round?
Actually, I'll be honest, this is probably going to be everyone's answer, but Tapu Koko is simply up there as probably the best draft Pokemon over there.
Yeah, that's something we hear a lot.
I mean, for me, it's like, I had this discussion with a lot of people, but basically, like, Tapu Koko, Sure and Black, Mega Lopunny, Celesteela, those are Pokemon that are game changers. Even Skyrander to that extent. But Koko, due to having so many options of either defogging, multiple ways of pivoting, setting up, terrain itself.
I mean, just the way you can draft different teams around it every single time.
Yeah, it's close to a very complete Pokemon. I think the only thing holding it back is that like play rough, stuff like that. It doesn't have a really good physical stab option.
Like that's the thing. I always say, like, you cannot really go wrong with drafting Koko. Like, there's always use for it.
Yeah, I'll say. I think so. I think that'd probably be the Pokemon I guess.
Okay, so, and assuming this deal was real, would you accept it? Or would you say, I want my variety still intact?
I'd probably say I get my variety. I mean, even though Koko is an excellent option, I drafted it 3 times and I'm getting tired of it.
Alright, that'll at least do for now. So, do you have anything else you want to say to the viewers before we're going out here?
Oh, just really, like, if you guys made it there, really just thank you for watching me and of course every other coaches. It's been a blast for us too, I'm sure. Just get an experience of this caliber. Definitely, I've never been experienced something like this in Generation 7, so I'm just really happy to be here.
Alright, that's really good enough. So, of course, good luck into your playoff match, and thank you for being here, for taking the time to have this little interview here. And of course, to the viewers, be sure to check out Skyrander if you haven't done already, because of course there will be a playoff match on his channel soon. And thank you guys for watching. Leave a like rating down below, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you guys back the next time.